I ate the same meal every day for 60 days. My brain started hallucinating taste. I want to tell you about day 31. I was sitting at my kitchen table eating the same bowl I had eaten every day for a month. Rice, chicken, olive oil, salt, exact same portions, exact same order. And somewhere between the second and third bite, I tasted something that was not there. Not a hallucination in the clinical sense. I was not confused about reality, but my mouth was receiving rice and my brain was reporting something else entirely. Something warm and complex and completely invented. A flavor with no source, generated entirely from the inside. I put the fork down and sat with it for a long time. Then I opened my journal and wrote, "The brain does not accept monotony. It manufactures what is missing." The setup. The experiment started simply. One meal, every day, for 60 days. Not starvation, I ate enough. Not nutrition restriction, the meal was balanced. The variable was singular, zero variety. The same ingredients, the same preparation, the same bowl, the same time of day, every single day for 2 months. The rule that caused the most resistance when I wrote it was this: no variation of any kind, not a different sauce, not an extra ingredient, not a smaller portion on a difficult day. The meal was fixed. The only thing that changed was me. I began on a Monday. By day 4, I understood that I had fundamentally underestimated what I was removing. The first 2 weeks. What food actually is, I had always thought of food as fuel with preference. You eat what you need and enjoy what you like. This is wrong. Food is one of the primary ways the human brain structures time. The anticipation of a meal, what you will have, where you will get it, what it will feel like, occupies more mental real estate than most people realize. Remove the anticipation and something specific happens to the shape of the day. The landmarks disappear. The small pleasures that punctuate ordinary hours go silent. By day 5, the day felt longer than it had any right to feel. Not because I was hungry, because I was not looking forward to anything that used to be worth looking forward to. By day 8, something more specific arrived. I started noticing food I was not eating with an intensity I had never experienced when I was free to eat it. A restaurant I passed on the way to work. A smell from someone's kitchen 3 floors up. A photograph of a meal in a magazine left on a bench. Each one registered with a vividness that my actual meal, the real food I was eating, never produced. The brain, denied variety, began treating the idea of variety as more real than the reality in front of it. Day 12. I sat down with my bowl and for the first time felt something I can only describe as grief. Not sadness, grief, the specific weight of something genuinely lost. I noted it and kept eating. The middle. What the brain does without variety, around day 20, the acute distress settled into something flatter. Not acceptance, flatness. The meal became background, something to get through rather than experience. And this is when the brain started doing something I had not anticipated. It began filling the gaps. Day 23, mid-meal. A sudden and completely uninvited memory. Not of the meal, but of a meal. A specific dinner from years ago, somewhere I had not thought about in a long time. The memory arrived with sensory detail that my current bowl completely lacked. I could almost taste it. Not imagine it. Almost taste it. Day 27. I noticed I was chewing differently. Slower. As if extending the contact between the food and my mouth might produce something the food itself was no longer delivering. It didn't. But the instinct was automatic. The jaw seeking variety from an experience that had none to give. Day 30. I began to understand something about pleasure that I had not understood before. Pleasure is not just about the thing itself. It is about contrast. The warm shower feels good partly because the air outside it was cold. The meal tastes satisfying partly because you were hungry and partly because it is different from what you ate before. Remove the contrast and you do not simply have less pleasure. You have a different relationship to the experience entirely. One in which the experience itself begins to feel like an absence. The bowl of rice and chicken had become, by day 30, a daily confrontation with everything it was not. Day 31, the hallucination, and then, day 31, the invented flavor, the warm, complex, sourceless taste that arrived between the second and third bite and stayed for approximately 4 seconds before dissolving back into the actual food. I wrote it down immediately. Over the following days, it happened 3 more times. Never the same flavor, never predictable, always brief, always completely real in the moment of its arrival, and impossible to recall with any precision afterward. The brain, I understood, was not malfunctioning, it was compensating. 40 years of eating varied food had built a set of neural expectations about what meals produce. Those expectations were not being met. So the brain, with the efficiency of a system that has learned to fill gaps, was generating the missing data from its own archives. Not hallucination, confabulation, the brain producing what it expected to find and briefly mistaking the production for the reception. It does this with memory, too, with faces, with the ends of sentences when the beginning has been heard before. The brain is a completion machine. Feed it monotony long enough, and it begins completing what is absent. The final weeks. What returned, by day 45, the compensatory flavors had stopped, not because the brain had accepted the monotony, because it had exhausted its attempts to correct it and moved into a different mode. A kind of radical presence arrived that I had not expected. Without the noise of preference, anticipation, and variety, the meal became purely physical. Temperature, texture, the mechanical fact of chewing. I started noticing things about eating I had never noticed before, precisely because I had always been thinking about something else. The way the jaw fatigues. The exact moment satiety arrives before the stomach has had time to register it. The strange neutrality of a body receiving exactly what it needs and nothing more. It was not pleasurable, but it was, in a way I struggle to articulate, honest. Day 60. I ate the last bowl. Exact same preparation. Exact same portions. I sat with it for longer than usual. Then I went to a restaurant and ordered something I had not eaten in 2 months. The first bite was one of the most overwhelming sensory experiences I can remember. Not because the food was remarkable, because contrast had been restored. The brain, finally receiving what it had been compensating for, registered it with an intensity proportional to the length of the deprivation. I sat in the restaurant for a long time afterward. Then I opened my journal and wrote, "We do not experience what is there. We experience the difference between what is there and what was there before. Pleasure is not a property of the thing. It is a relationship between the thing and everything that preceded it." Take away the preceding, and you find out what the experience actually is without the contrast that makes it feel like something. What it actually is enough. What we experience is the distance between enough and more, and we spend most of our lives in that distance, calling it hunger, when the bowl was always full.